I've never seen a Formula One race, attended the Indianapolis 500, or even seen a NASCAR race other than those on TV. In my youth, however, I did see a lot of dirt track racing of stock cars and midget cars, plus a fair number of drag races and demolition derbies along the way. Today's story is a nostalgic look back at some of the early days of stock car racing in the American Midwest. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to History Heights. I'm Gail Macinda. Along with my name, I got my love of cars from my dad. And I've owned some pretty neat cars through the years, but these days, probably the coolest cars I own are a rather enviable collection of vintage Matchbox cars. Ever since there have been cars, people have had an unstoppable competitive drive to see who gets the bragging rights for whose car is the fastest. In the earliest days of auto racing, road races were popular. These were simply races on existing roads. The races could be point to point with different beginning and ending locations, or closed circuit, where the start line was also the finish line. Generally considered the first organized race was this one, held in France in 1894. It was a point-to-point road race of not quite 79 miles over mostly country roads. 21 automobiles started the race and 17 finished. Road races became popular in America, too. Then we have track races. The tracks used for these races could be built specifically for auto racing or could have been built as horse racing tracks, which was a good financial move for the track owners to have a multi-purpose use track. In track races, the drivers simply go around and around in an oval, all left turns. The first car used for oval track racing was the open cockpit racer. A 1902 model from France is considered to be the first true race car, and it involved what is later called a sprint car. Sprint cars tend to look a lot alike with their open wheels and open cockpit, but are divided into classes based on overall weight and engine displacement. The bigger cars were great for longer events, but the smaller cars did really well on smaller tracks. Through the years, many classes of these open-wheeled cars were used on oval tracks, including big cars, midget cars, roadsters, modifieds, and super modifieds. Then there are drag races, which are run on straight tracks, no curves at all. We could spend a lot of time talking about all these different cars and tracks, but for now, we're going to push on to the late models, also known as stock cars. Stock car races were held from the early days of automobiles, but the flashy, open-wheeled cars stole the spotlight. It wasn't until the 1930s that stock car racing began to get its own following. But then came World War II, and auto racing was halted for the duration of the war. In addition, in 1942, all automobile manufacturers stopped making cars and switched to wartime production, building things like essential trucks, airplanes, helicopters, and related components. Everyone pulled together for the war effort. As soon as the war was over, however, Americans were eager to enjoy many forms of entertainment and recreation, and that included auto racing. It took a while for the auto manufacturers' supply to catch up with the public's demand for new cars. But as they did, pre-war cars from the 1930s were often hopped up and used in racing. The best way to hear a story is from someone who lived it. I'm delighted to introduce you to my uncle, Bud Bevard, my mother's brother. Bud was born in 1927 and raced stock cars as a young man from 1949 and well into the 1960s. Since Bud and I now live in different states, I sent him some questions, and with the help of his son, Alan, he kindly recorded his answers for us. You'll also see and hear references to George Macinda. That would be my dad. I'm including some family photos and movie footage that I think will give you a wonderful glimpse into those days and the good times that they had.
My wife and I went to Peoria with a couple friends, and we went to a stock car race. We'd never been to one, and after we went, I said, that looks like it'd be a lot of fun. And then they opened the track at Knoxville, so I went over there to a race and went in the pits afterwards and looked them all over, see how they were made. And then I went to a salvage yard or junkyard and bought a 39 Hudson straight 8. Put a roll bars in it and reinforced the front end and took it to Knoxville for the first race. And I only got about 1 or 2 laps and it quit running. And I never raced anymore that day because we didn't know what happened, that the engine quit running. And then we found a wire had fallen off. The next time we raced, we went to Macomb, Illinois. I did real good in the first heat race, and then I qualified in the time trials for the feature event. And when they give us the flag, we took off, and I think I only run about 1 or 2 laps, and I found that I was out in front, and I just kept my foot pedal to the metal and finished the race and won it. That was my first race, actually. I won the feature event. At the end of the year, we put it in a demolition race, and it got demolished. Yes, I was the body shop manager at the Hudson dealership, so the guys that owned it, I talked to them, and they said that if I sponsored them, I could do it. So I actually built it in the body shop at the Hudson garage. And we got sponsors that paid, like one guy had a gas station. I put his name and advertisement on it, and he furnished the gas for the races. George got recalled to the Army, and my sister kept a guy that was working in the office for George. He was going to try to run the shop, but he kind of made a mess of it, and so she asked me if I could come and run it. And I hated to quit at the Hudson garage, but I had to because it was family. So I went out and ran George's shop, and then I built the second stock car, which was a 39 Hudson Coupe, and that was number 600. That car was a good-looking car, and it ran great. Won a lot of races with it. And George had a wrecker, and that's when we started using his wrecker to pull the stock car to the races. When he got out, then he started going with us, and he got pretty involved in it. George's Collision Service. I know people used to get it all mixed up, and they would call it George Collinson's Service. George never acted like he cared to drive, but he was part of the pit crew, and he had fun, and we all had fun. Well, we had 3 guys pit crew, and when you pull in out of a race, there's always a lot of things to check and do. So change tires and check the radiator, pull some tin out where somebody hit you and bend it up to get it to be pulled out. Oh, I used to help a little, but mostly all the mechanics did all the work on tune-ups and getting them prepped, checking out all the mechanics and so forth. I liked most of them, but I think probably, well, it's hard to say because some of them were faster than others, but they were all good. I had all the cars I had. I won feature events, and like that 71, we had team cars, and I won the main event, the feature event in Monmouth at that track, and my teammate with the duplicate car, just like they looked alike, he won the semi-feature. So that was really unusual. We won both main events. That was Galesburg Lincoln Mercury. I drove for them. It had a brand new Mercury V8 engine in it. It was a good car. We raced it for a few years. When we were coming back from racing in Aledo, we went through Alexis. The road from Alexis to the Monmouth Road was fresh gravel, and was pulling a stock car behind the Galesburg Lincoln Mercury pickup truck, and the stock car started kind of whipping, and I told Dick, he hit the brakes, and I said, "Don't hit the brakes, Dick, hit the gas, and it'll straighten it out." And he hit the gas, and it started straightening out. He panicked and hit the brake again, because we were at the bottom of a hill, and when he hit the brake, we went into the end of the bridge. I went out through the windshield. His brother-in-laws were following us, and I was bleeding. My face was all bloody and cut. His brother-in-law had a brand new 51 Ford and Crestliner. And they threw me in the back seat, took me to Galesburg to St. Mary's Hospital, and I guess I just bled all over them seats. Totaled the race car. Well, we had seat belts and crash helmet. That was about it. As far as close calls are concerned, we had close calls in every race. There was some were a lot more severe than others, but there was always close calls in every race. Other cars were bumping into you, hitting you in the side. Well, it seems that my pit crew forgot to hook the hood down when I was in the pits between races, and when I went back out, when I was going down the backstretch wide open, the wind caught it and it blew the hood up, and I couldn't see anything, and cars got into cars, and I ended up on my side.
If you like this type of content, we'd appreciate you letting us know with a subscribe and a share. And you can use the comment section to send a message to me or Bud. In the decades after his racing career, Bud Bevard became nationally known for his impeccable restorations of classic Mustangs, winning more awards than I can possibly even imagine. He is one of the most interesting people you could ever meet, and truly a wonderful guy. As much as I've enjoyed these photos and movies, we can learn from the past, but we can't live there. Go be awesome today. Make your own history. Stick around for more great stories like these, including this one about the 1912 Indianapolis 500.